Welcome to the Hard Truth Show. And guys, in this video today, I'm going to talk about that the media is pushing lawlessness on a level just never before. You know, I think this is the 57th anniversary coming up. I think it is a Dr. Martin Luther King march, I believe it is, on Washington. I'm trying to think. I think that's what I seen the other day, and forgive me if I'm wrong on that. Anyway, the point in case I want to make is that, you know, we have seen in this country for decades conversations about human rights and civil liberties and etc. And what is interesting to me, and it plays right into end time prophecy too, is that if you look at it, I've seen, I don't know how many, and I'll start right here with white people exhibiting lawlessness. And had I been a police officer, I'd have just clapped them right there. Done. But yet they just let them continue. However, a person of color seemed like was almost immediately met with resistance, dealt with, done. A lot of people that are on both sides of that spectrum probably deserved a bullet, but some got them and some didn't. And see, that's the problem right there, is that the media sees this very clearly. And that's an issue with policing. That's an issue with, I think a lot of people are racist, of all colors. Okay. I'm just trying to lay a whole premise here for where I'm going with this. And then at the end of the day, you also have the media controlled. Okay. And I believe Jesuits run the media, at the end of the day. And if you look at the control of the media, the music, everything that's inundated into us, when you really start running the numbers on it. And I looked at an article the other day, like the gentleman that got shot in Kennesaw, and forgive me if I mispronunciated that, because I'm going to go all the way back to, and I'll try to put the links in the video description below of some of the stuff I just touched on, guys, because I don't want to go into any particular thing too deep, because that's not the point that I'm trying to arrive at today. I want to stay on the media. That's the main thing. I'm trying to flush your mind to the media. Is that if you look at that situation the other day, immediately the news jumped on that, and the guy was just like, you know, he's been murdered. But the thing that was intriguing to me is that he had a warrant out for his arrest already. And when you read the news article, people's got it like, you know, they had it all this put together like he was just completely innocent, pretty much the most part, and etc. And then you get down to the bottom, and then it really breaks it down that, oh yeah, the guy had a criminal history, he's got a warrant out for his arrest, etc. Right? But you got triggered ahead of time before you ever got to that point. Except for me, I had no feelings iota about it and just took it as it was and tried to catch as much information as I could before making an assessment. Give you another example. The young man that shot the people in the street the other night. I can't think of his name off the top of my head at the moment, but anyway, I've looked at a lot of different video of him in the street, people attacking him, then him shooting them. The people he shot all had a criminal history. He had a criminal history. And right, wrong, or indifferent, it's just nothing but lawlessness. Just lawlessness. And keep in mind that this lawlessness stemmed from someone else being shot, which had already practiced lawlessness. And then you can say the police did lawlessness if you want to. I'm indifferent. That's not what is important at the moment. What is important is that you understand is that the media has an agenda. They want to trigger people. There is an undermine that is underway in our country currently, that if people can destroy and undermine what we have going, okay, if there can be a destruction of the element of our nation, then the very fabric of everything falls apart. Now, when I look at it from a scriptural perspective, I can see that Babylon's going to fall. I believe all the nations of the world's going to fall for that matter, but also this country's definitely going to pay, folks. It has held the jewels of the Most High. It has mistreated its people. America just mistreats everything. And I don't want to sound anti-patriotic, but at the end of the day, the only real kingdom that matters to me is the Most High Yah's kingdom. In the meantime, though, the question that has to be asked, okay, is that do we defend ourselves or not? Because it's not just a defense in the street, it's a defense of the mind. And I see so many people, Hebrew, Gentile, family, friends, brothers and sisters in faith, that they're so triggered by the news. I've been doing a lot of scientific study lately for myself personally, and I've watched on Facebook the unfolding. Somebody asked me the other day, said, well, how would you have dealt with it or how would you have preferred this have been dealt with how do you think the Most High would deal with this situation where the people attacked the gentleman in the street, he shot some? I said, honestly, I'd hope the Most High just kill them all. Because the thing is, number one, the people shouldn't have been in the streets. That guy shouldn't have went there looking for trouble. I mean, there's just so many layers to it, and you could say, well, Luke, I agreed with these people, or I agreed with these people. I don't care I really don't give a flip who you agreed with. I don't care if you don't agree with any of them. What matters is that you've got to see that lawlessness is on the rise in our country. If you don't own a firearm, if you're like me, I have one in every room in the house, try to anymore. That one's actually one from Indiana Jones collection, because he had one. Actually, he had one of those Eglise. I'll tell you in a second. Yeah, his was from the Canadian contract on Browning's high power. Now, the one I got is actually from Nazi Germany when they had the FN Fabrik factory forcing them to make them guns, because I just think German quality's great stuff, guys. Steel and etc. But, everybody should have a firearm. And we're getting to a point where you're going to have to ask yourself the question, is if lawlessness comes to my doorstep, am I going to act? Because the media is not going to stop until what you see have taken place in this year. It's going to just compound and compound. And ladies and gentlemen, just so that people that haven't had a educational class in government, you have two paths laid before you post-election. And I mean, when I say post-election, I mean post-ballot box day. The first road will be to serfdom. Okay, if you see Mr. Biden go into the office, things are going to head very quickly towards socialist Nazi Germany in this country. It should be a very intriguing ride to the depths of hell. And I can already see the concern in people being that the phone has rung off the hook this year, as what we specialize in doing off-grid construction. People, if you want to check us out, offgridcontractor.com, free advertisement there. But that is definite, no questions asked, the direction that if that individual goes in office. If Mr. Trump goes back into office, you're going to see an absolute internal cancer murder of this country by the media, Democratic Party. And ladies and gentlemen, I lean libertarian because I feel that the facets that are written in the Constitution are not respected by either party anymore. And that's not just to take a jump out the side. Everybody needs to stand for something. But if I'm going to stand for something, very simple. The Republican Party, some of the tenets nowadays, it's just take care of the rich and forget the poor. Big business. I can't get behind that. Everybody needs taken care of and having an equal opportunity to fight at this thing. But this freebies and taking the money in the pockets and all that garbage ain't for me. Democratic Party, it's real simple. Check out. You support abortion and the murder of life. I'm instantly done with y'all on that tenet alone. So anyway, when you go down and you really look at the tenets of these two parties, both are a road to destruction, but one is a road to serfdom immediately. And the other one, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, will be the triggering of the internal destruction of our country. And if you haven't learned anything from 2020, the coronavirus situation, I remember when it was first brought up. Now, I'll tell you, it even triggered me at one point because they hyped it up so high about the stuff that happened in China that by the time it started here, I was just a little bit concerned. I'm not going to lie. But I said at the end of it, I was like, you know what? Most High Y'all holds my life in his hands. I'm done with it. I don't want to deal with this mess. And plus, when I started actually seeing numbers trickle in that people can survive this thing very easily, if they're not already pre-existing health conditions, I'm like, matter of fact, let me just go ahead and get this thing, get it over with, and get on with my life. But you see, a lot of people, even to this day, as hard as this is going to be for some of you that watch this channel to digest this content that I'm about to tell you, there is some people to this day, and I know some of them. I deal with them. I hate to say it, but even, we're talking on family members level at this point, right? Is that they live off of the words of what the media says. If the media says this thing's kicking up again, you're going to die of it, blah, 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 they're not going out the door. And the same thing with the shooting situation the other day. Like I said, the police officer shot that Blake, I believe was the guy's name the other day. They shot that gentleman. Well, I won't really call him a gentleman because of what he already had a warrant issue out on him. But that man, okay, shot that man. Lawlessness was abounding right there. And then the media took that to the next level. And then it wasn't really even, they were disingenuous, because at the end of the article, it showed that he already had a warrant out for his arrest. So that should have been the end of this conversation right there. It doesn't matter what the man done right then. I don't even care if he's innocent of whatever was going on right then. He had a warrant out for his arrest. That's it. It's done. And it doesn't matter what creed he goes by, what color, where he's from, bottom line. Next thing is the same situation. The gentleman that shot the guys in the street the other day, he's like 17. I believe state law states you can't have that long rifle till 18. Now, if his parents were present, he was clear, but if they weren't, then he wasn't supposed to be there. So the same thing applies, and I believe that law also specifically states they have to be in their presence. So, like, just being in the same town is not the same as being in their presence, okay? And I'm not a lawyer, but lawlessness, and then he shows up looking for trouble, and then results in the loss of people's lives, which were also, all them people apparently were practicing lawlessness. So what I'm saying is we're living in a time where lawlessness is abounding. Then on top of that lawlessness, you have the media fueling every tension they can: racial tension, civil tension, election tension. You got to understand that, as I pointed out recently when I spoke at the Restoring the Foundations Conference, is that order out of chaos is the MO for the Illuminati, Freemasons, Jesuits. For me, they're all in one clump. And you cannot have a restructuring of this country and this world, okay? Because you got to understand that America is a huge pivotal tool for shaping of the world, is that you cannot have that until you break it down to the very base core. All right, and once you've broken that down, then you can begin the restructure. And we're not broken down yet. Matter of fact, the reason that tensions are so high right now is this country is starting to finally sift into a divide. You're having people that want to stand for the Constitution, freedom, values, sanctity of life, etc., blah, blah. And then over here, you've got these people that just want to turn and burn the country. And we are arriving at point blank where that you're going to see, because I'm already seeing this on Facebook with the people that I have as friends, is that the true colors are finally starting to show in people. And that's another thing that's a very important. I think the greatest gift that we've been given in 2020 is to see people's true colors, from elected officials down, all the way to your family and friends, because you're starting to see the tip of the cusp of it, where you might have had to guess over the years where the screws are turned in or where the gears are turning. You don't have to guess anymore. People are laying it out there point blank how they feel. Like I said in the previous video on the Hard Truth Show content for the show, I said that I was having dialogue with a friend of mine on Facebook, and that they finally pointed out that the only reason they have an issue with me, pretty much, as a person, is not because that I love y'all. It's not because I want to do the right thing. It's not nothing like that. It's because that I'm white. But see, now he was finally honest with me, and that's fine. I even told him I appreciate that. The thing is, I just want to know where people finally stand, because you see, the media is triggering people. And there's a good and bad thing with this. I'll start with the bad thing first. The bad thing is you're seeing the situations that are playing out right now on the news. People taking to the streets, burning the cities down, murdering one another, lawlessness to a degree I've never seen before in my life. The flip side of this is that as these events play out and are continuing to play out, what you will continue to see is a sifting of the souls. Guys, real quick before I go into that point, I want to take a moment and give a shout out to this month's channel sponsor.
How far will your US dollar fall once we tally up all the spending and borrowing due to the coronavirus? How will government mandated business shutdowns affect the economy moving forward? My friends, uncertainty is the enemy that investors and savers alike need to guard against. No one is expected to know the future, and diversification is the proper strategy to combat market instability and geoeconomic uncertainty. Now is the time to take action, protect your long-term buying power. What good are your stock portfolio gains if the profits are in US dollars that are losing value due to inflation and debts? It's like adding air into a tire with a hole in it. Did you know that silver has surged 53% year to date and gold has surged 31% in that same time? U.S. investors can use this little known IRS qualified loophole that allows Americans to buy gold and silver as a tangible asset through their accredited retirement accounts. Give the good guys at Orion Metal Exchange a call to see what you can do to protect your retirement account. Bank of America is forecasting $3,200 an ounce for gold respectively. Some experts are calling for gold to double in the next year. Call 866-915-5053 and get your free investment guide today. Orion Metal Exchange is Consumer Affairs top-rated gold IRA dealer. At Orion, you get more metal for your money. Call today or request a free investment kit below. Mention 7 Trumpets Prepper channel on YouTube and ask for details how you can qualify for their current IRA account incentives. Call 866-915-5053 and get your free investment guide today. At Orion, you get more precious metals for your money. And remember to ask about their client-exclusive fee-free buyback policy.
Now, guys, the point that I want to make now is that on the positive side of that is this year has progressed ever since about the second month on the pagan calendar this year. As I've continued to watch this trend forward motion, I've noticed that people that are triggered by the media, you want to look at consistency when you're looking to form a conclusion on a matter. And so as I've watched people, I've notated, I'm like, triggered. And I've started putting them in my little black book and here, in the heart and in the mind, because I'm like, when the time comes, that person that I knew that called in and reported that person for being sick with corona, that's going to be the same person that calls in and reports me for not taking the mark of the beast. I need to disappear out of that person's life. And just like that person on Facebook the other day, had a peaceful dialogue with them. I just asked simple questions, no response, and just get down to the black and white between the lines, And when I finally did get an answer on certain things, it finally laid out for me that I need to separate company from them. That's fine. I'm not even done up about it. But at the end of the day, that's all we really need to know is just where people stands. And 2020 has just been a fundamental gift to those of us wanting to know that. And at the end of the day, we've only began. Now, when the election kicks full swing, when people go in the voting booths in the 11th month of this year and pull the trigger, they're pulling the trigger on something that, of course, the Most High knows how the whole world was going to be before it ever was. I believe he knows every word I was going to say sitting right here, right now. But there's going to come that fundamental divide in our country after that we will know the direction that a lot of things are going to go, because you have seen a run up to it right now. The media has fueled tensions. I've never seen so much racial tension in our country. I've never seen so much civil division, family division, jobs, money, everything. It's just division on every hand. So knowing what we have right now, if you just turn, let's say it's like the temperature on an oven and you turn it from 350 to 450, that's all that's going to happen following the election. The temperature's just going to rise. So knowing these matters and knowing what's coming, you need to delete the media out of your mind, because if you're woke, and a lot of people say, I hate it's bad because a lot of people use that word woke, and it's been associated with a lot of movements like feminism, stuff like that, and it just left a bad label on it, but it's actually a good word. at its core, because that's about the best way you could describe being woken to the truth, is just woke. And if you're woke to what is going on in the narratives that are at play, and just like I said about that article, that the true depth of the information, the number one thing that should have been brought out in the beginning was at the end of the article, or suppressed, or not even brought up at all, and then you had to go find it somewhere else. You see, you never get the full truth till long down the line. You never get the full truth till people's been triggered, they've acted out, lawlessness has been done. And we're living in the days of, Sodom and Gomorrah again, days of Noah. I mean, we are living in some tripping days, all right? And people are flat out tripping. And, if you don't have a firearm, now's the time to get one and carry it. If you don't have a means to protect yourself, now's the time to get it. There's a lot of clamp down on YouTube channels like mine nowadays more than ever. Years ago I could have these conversations with you. It would be in the tens of thousands of views. And you say, oh, you're just lying. If you go back and look at content that I spoke on matters like this years ago, blowed up. I'm doing an actual show nowadays that I take time out of the week to actually sit down and discuss these exact matters that I just made a random video about years ago. I bet it'd do good to get 1,000 views because this channel is being suppressed. I can just show you the stats. You can just see where it's always been like this, and then all of a sudden it is just held to that. I haven't changed, my thought process on anything. I mean, my goodness, just crank content out a lot nowadays. I mean, that conference alone was like 16 videos in like that 1 week alone. But it's not so much the issue with me as it is what's being said. And you're going to see a point in time come where all you're going to have to rely on is like CNN on the news and stuff like that. I mean, they're going to cut people like us out, because the media, I don't fit the narrative. I'm the complete opposite of what the media tells you. Especially the number one rule that I break with them is that I encourage you to think for yourself. Don't take my word for nothing. Look, think, and research for yourself. And that is one of the most dangerous concepts in this day and hour, because the media cannot afford to have people thinking for themselves. It is so important that you put your mask on, be a sheep, and do as they say. They are watching right now, I believe, and seeing how that people comply to this. And I think that Corona has taught them that the majority of the masses will comply. And that puts me as an outsider. And that probably puts you, if you're watching, a lot of you, as an outsider. And that is the realm that we're arriving at very shortly. And like I said, this election and these events that just continue to be happening leading up to election, it's going to be fueled and fueled and fueled. And they're taking every opportunity with social media. That's what I'm saying. They're silencing people like me, while at the same time using people that took video of that conflict in the streets there the other day in Kennesaw, and just fueling it. And so the ultimate thing, though, is that eventually, folks, it's going to come down to a loss of freedom. That's all that it matters in the end. That's all that matters in the end. That's why I'm going to wrap this video on that. Is you got to understand that I don't know the day or hour that it's going to come down to it, but you're going to have to make some hard decisions. Do I pull the trigger and protect my family, or do I risk my day in court, or risk dying? There's so many different questions that's going to have to be asked later, but it's going to be an individual thing how that we all survive this soon, because the media is making certain to fracture every relationship people have, family. Like I said, this coronavirus thing, it's fractured families, work relationships, marriages, religious fellowships. I mean, it is just fracture. And then you compound this coming election, it's more fracturing. And then you compound all the racial tension, civil tension we have, and it's more fracturing. And you cannot have a reunified country. Martial law and the New World Religion, New World Calendar, and all the stuff. You cannot have this while people still have freedom to think for themselves. All right, so I can't overly state the importance of getting the media detoxed out of your mind. Like, you need to do your own independent research on everything that's told anymore, because the first thing I did was scan the articles to see if this person was a criminal. Hey, he had a warrant for his arrest, but yet that was the last thing that's talked about. Whether you agree what happened to him or not, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is important, critical information is always being left out until that it's not important anymore, and there's another big spin. These are the things you got to consider, guys. And as we go forward on the Hard Truth Show, moving forward, when I give you articles and things to look at, stuff like that, just like that march that Stone Mountain, Virginia, I'll just make a comment on this because I forgot to comment on that earlier, is that, you've seen these people march, and then we're angry and we're saying, like, where's the white man? Get out here with your militia and back us up. It's like, did you even call up any of those militias to tell that you were going to march so they could come support you? You see, like, people's just triggered, and then when they're triggered, they don't even respond or act in a meaningful manner if they're going to move on something. See, like that Stone Mountain thing, okay, if you're going to go down there and march and make a presence and then say, where are you at? Well, did you contact anyone? Probably not. But, and then there, is just causing a scene. At the end of the day, the media has done a fine, superb job of destroying this country being connected. People have got to get back to thinking for themselves and reviewing all the information, because if you stay triggered all the time, every time the news comes on, every time something gets said, when the trumpets start, when the stuff really hits the fan in a big way, you're not going to be ready for it. So guys, as always, till we see you again here at the Hard Truth Show and the 7 Times Trapper channel, I hope the Most High Yah Baruch can make his face shine upon you, show you favor, and give you shalom, my friends, in Yahushua.